G'day Unrivaled beings, hope you're doing super well. Welcome back to another episode of Becoming Unrivaled. Now we had great feedback from our last episode, especially around the part where we spoke about engines and anchors and how you really want to be surrounding yourself with people who push you forward versus people who hold you back. And so this episode, we're going to be expanding a little bit more on that. And you know, we're coming towards the end of 2020 now. And so maybe you have, maybe it's time that you start to think about what are you going to be doing differently in 2021? Who are you going to be surrounding yourself with? And maybe questioning those anchors that have held you back in 2020. So, Steffi, what do we got for today?
Yeah, Mac. So I figured we would just kind of talk about those relationships and what we find the top one or two things in relationships that are important, the kind of fundamental building blocks for successful relationships. And we actually each just thought of our answers and we wrote them down. Well, I wrote mine down. And so we haven't discussed this. We just figured we'd press play and see what happens. So yeah, just kind of, you know, what are your top things in a relationship that you think makes a successful relationship? And this could be not just romantically, but, you know, with family, friends, any sort of relationship that you have in your life.
Great. Do you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
I'll go ahead and go first.
Go for it. Ladies first.
For me, I think one of the most fundamental things in any successful relationship is communication. Obviously, it has to just be open and honest. And in order to be able to communicate your needs and wants, you have to, be aware of what it is you need and what you want. So I think that's obviously super important. But then on top of that, which a lot of people don't know what, at the end of the day, what it is they want or why they're doing the things they're doing. So just having an awareness around that is going to be super important. And then B, they just need to have a safe space to express that. So a lot of times maybe we know what we want, so we finally figure that out. We know what we need, but we just don't feel comfortable or confident in the relationship to be able to express that for fear of judgment, or, you know, maybe you've kind of shifted some things and the other person hasn't, so they're being a bit more of a anchor, and so you don't feel comfortable to be able to express that. So obviously with that communication, you have to have a safe space so you can tell that person how you're feeling and why that is. So like for the example we were talking about last episode, you know, you go to a family gathering or maybe you're in a relationship and people are asking you why it is you're making these changes. If you don't feel comfortable or confident enough to just say, hey, you know, I haven't really liked myself over the last 5 years or the last couple months, so I want to make a change because I want to feel better about myself. I want to be able to do this. If you don't feel comfortable to be able to express that, then obviously there's something missing in that relationship. So you need to be able to be heard. And then also in terms of communication, I think it's not just you communicating, but you also have to be willing to listen as well to what the other person is communicating to you. So a good example of this in our relationship is for your birthday, I got you some wonderful gifts.
Great gifts. They were actually tremendous gifts.
Great thought. I got you some custom-made hats, and you were super appreciative, and you loved the thought behind it. However, afterwards you said, hey, love the gift, love the effort, A for effort. I really appreciate it. However, I'm just really hard to shop for. I know what I like. You have a giant head, so it's really hard to buy for you. You're very specific in what you like. So you said, going forward, just don't ever buy me any sort of apparel or gifts like that, because if I want something, I'll just buy it for myself, and I know what I like. And I said, yeah, okay, sure. I heard you, but I didn't really listen. And just the fact that I think you were confident enough to express that, because how many times do you get an ugly sweater from grandma and you just say, oh, thanks, grandma, I love it. Yeah. And then she gives you another one every year for the next 2 decades. Yeah. I think it's really rare for people to feel confident enough to be able to actually say the truth and how they feel. Yep. So I really appreciated the fact that, you know, I'm not going to go out and make you 10 more hats because you told me that. However, I heard you, but I didn't listen. And so then a month later you said, you casually mentioned how you needed new socks. So there I go online ordering you new pairs of socks, and they arrive and I'm super excited to give them to you. Hey, got you socks. And you're like, great. Black socks. I only wear white socks. I told you not to buy me anything. And I'm like, yeah, but they're socks. Like, come on. And so this has gone on. And finally I've started to actually listen to what you were telling me. And
it's coming up to Christmas. You better not have gotten me anything.
I got you an experience and not a tangible gift, because I know that, I've finally taken on board what you communicated and I listened. Yeah. And so I think that's obviously important as well.
Because if you don't do that, if you don't stand up and say, hey, listen, I appreciate the effort. And even if you're watching or listening to this, it's the effort is what you want to reward in everything. You want to reward your kids with the effort. If you're on a weight loss journey and you've lost 4 kilos or whatever it may be, it's not fantastic you've lost 4 kilos. You'll always be wanting to be rewarding the effort, because the results are not always going to be instantaneously, but you can reward the effort in that given moment. And so if you continue to reward the effort, that signals the happiness hormones that you want to keep going. And then, of course, if you keep going, the results are just going to take care of itself. And so when you're saying, I truly do appreciate the effort that you went into making these custom-made hats. And, you're probably sick of me complaining, I need new socks. So you just go out and do the initiative. And a big part of you is like, great, I'm helping. Mm-hmm. Where, it's, if I didn't say that, maybe I wouldn't have worn the hat or wouldn't have worn the socks. And then potentially you could have taken it personally to be like, don't you like the gifts that I give you? Exactly. And then that creates this whole kind of another...
Yeah, which exactly segues into my next point under listening, is like when somebody communicates to you what it is they want or what they need, you have to take that on board and not make it about you. So another thing is like we spend a lot of time together, we work together, we live together, we train together. Yeah. So we spend all our time together, which I think is great. However, like sometimes you just need personal time. And so it got to a point where I think at the start, you were afraid to just say, hey, I want to spend time by myself. And in the past, I would have kind of taken that personally and gone, oh, well, what did I do? Is it something I did? Like what's going on? What can I do to fix it? Yeah. And kind of just push even further, even more, which would then make you pull back even more. And so I think it's when somebody's communicating something that they want or that they need, don't make it about you. Just take that on board. And you always say this, everything outside of you has nothing to do with you.
You literally just took the words out. I was just waiting for you to put a full stop and go, anything that happens outside of you has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
The only thing that you need to worry about is the thing that goes on between your eyes. And that's all, right? And you were also saying something about taking alone time and not taking it personally. Oh yeah, like know how to recharge your own batteries. Mm-hmm. And it's super important. If you want to give more back to the relationship, you also need to give more to yourself. Mm-hmm. And so you need to understand, okay, when is it my time? Now, certainly if you have kids, this is a whole different kettle of fish, because now you have 1 or 2 or 3 kids to look after, maybe 4, maybe 5. I don't know how many kids you have. But then you've got to manage little kids, you've got to manage your partner, and you've got to manage yourself first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and for us, it's making sure we slot in alone time, which now we designate one day each week where it's like on the schedule where we're just going to have the quote night off. Yeah. And I think that's just super helpful and not making it about yourself and just going, hey, yeah, it has nothing to do with me. It's not something I've done. It's just something that you know that is important to you. And like you said, it in the end, it makes our relationship better. Because
it's like I'm an introvert, right? And so I recharge by myself. And, it's people think that, when you work by yourself, I'm alone for most of the day. Obviously, I spend a lot of the time with you when we're working, but we're not really talking too much. We're just cranking out some work and doing our own thing. We go to the gym together and we sometimes do separate workouts. We sometimes work out together and all of that stuff. You never really get your solitude alone time where you can totally switch off. Mm-hmm. Because even if you work by yourself, it's still work. You're not recharging your own batteries. Yeah. So it's really important. Like, believe it or not, I have my monthly cycle. It was just
coordinates with the full moon.
It just recently was a full moon. But now we've communicated this over a period of time, and really we were best friends beforehand. And so we had that open and honest communication when we were living together as best friends a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And so it was so easy for us to just to go, hey, I need some time off. I just need to go by myself for a little bit. And so that's kind of carried on to the relationship, which is really good.
Yeah. And actually on that, don't take things personally. So one of the best books, I know you'll support this recommendation.
Oh, such a good book.
The 4 Agreements. One of the 4 things, a spoiler alert, is don't take things personally. So if you haven't read that book, absolutely recommend.
Read it to your kids.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the best. I wish I had have read that as a little child.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's an easy read, a quick read, but it will fundamentally change your perspective on a lot of things. So yeah. And then I think just in terms of communication, obviously you can tell somebody what it is you need or want, but you have to be able to do that effectively and also respectfully. So like you said, with the appreciation, it's not like you opened your birthday present, you said, you don't buy me hats. These hats don't fit me. It's like one time recently, actually, I made some soup and you tried it and you're like, oh, wow, that's so great. Thanks for making this soup. Next time, just way less pepper. And it's like to be able to express it, but in a nice way and not just kind of blatantly attack the person or there's definitely a fine line between making the person feel respected and heard but also getting your point across. Because if somebody makes you tuna casserole, I love it, even though it makes you want to gag, for the next decade you're going to be eating tuna casserole.
One of the easiest ways to get out of a tricky situation where you want to express your feelings and be heard and still have it a win-win where it's not as an attack is 2 really crucial words, is appreciate and respect. You know, I appreciate the effort. I've really respected what you've done here. I really respect you. However, my line of thought is X, Y, and Z. Or I really appreciate what you've done. It looks great. However, it's just not my flavor. Yeah,
exactly. I think you do that really well. So to me, I think as a whole, communication is super important. But it's just being able to communicate open and honestly, also listen and be respectful. And at the end of the day, you also just have to have a lot of awareness to know what it is you need to be able to communicate that in the first place.
Yeah.
So for me, that would be my summary of what I think is super important in a relationship. And so if you're in relationships where you don't feel like you can safely communicate what it is you need, then those might be some relationships that you need to reevaluate.
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose where I come in is you can go into communication a little bit, but it's first and foremost, if you want to have a strong relationship, you have to have a strong relationship with yourself first. You have to know your worth. You have to know your boundaries. You have to know who you are, or at least continue to try to discover and create who you are, because we're always changing. And so in terms of that communication, if we actually go a step deeper, I believe it comes from knowing who you are. And if you can have that strong relationship with yourself first, you can actually stand up for yourself. You can say to someone, hey, I love what you've done here, but it's just not for me. Or they could say it to you and you're not going to be able to take it personally. So know yourself, have first and foremost, have a relationship with yourself. And then the second thing, I didn't write it down, but is... gone mentally blank. I've probably gone mental as well.
Well, I'll just elaborate on something you just said that just popped into my head when you're saying knowing yourself and kind of knowing your worth. And we actually just talked about this a couple of days ago. It's like I used to feel a bit unsure in relationships or like insecure. And so I used to try to be the cool girl and like, oh yeah, this doesn't bother me. Or like, I can't say something that's on my mind or say something that bothers me because I was worried about how the other person would receive it. And it's like, I wouldn't be cool or I'd be needy or whatever. And now I just feel confident in myself and my worth. And now I'm totally able to just tell you. And I think it goes back to communication as well, because I feel safe that I can be heard. And so
you've actually just sparked my second point, was personal development. So although here's the interesting thing, we're talking about relationships with other people, but everything is a reflection from the relationship that you have with yourself. So first and foremost, as an overview, the relationship you have with yourself. Second thing is personal development for both parties and for your groups of friends as well. Because if you don't grow, everything on this earth either grows or dies. So if you're not growing, you're dying. And I see so many times in relationships, and I've even had relationships as well, where one person outgrows the other. Where, so many people lose themselves in relationships. And they might whack on 5, 10, 15 kilos, and then all of a sudden they're now single, and they've signed up to the gym, and they're on this big health kick to try to recreate who they truly are. So, how do I get onto that? Personal development, yeah, because you need to be surrounding yourself with engines who push you forward. If someone is not interested in growing, if someone is in their fixed box, it's this way, it's this method, it's my rules, it's nothing's going to be changing, they have a fixed mindset, there's no room for growth there together, right? Now, you can be walking different paths, you can have different goals, but you've both got to be climbing the same mountain, right? There's so many paths that you can take. But as long as you get to the same destination at the top, then that's totally fine. Walk your own journey, but just know someone's walking it with you. But as soon as they stop walking, or they start climbing a different mountain, going in a different direction, then that's where they can become an anchor. Or question yourself as well. Maybe you're an anchor to them. If you see your partner or your friends growing, and you don't like that change, and you're resistant to that, and you start to tempt them, they're on a weight loss journey, and you start eating pizza in front of them, or you purposely create a social event just to drink and get out and try to sabotage them, then you are the anchor. And if that's happening to you, and we get it all the time, we transform in the lives of thousands of women, and we often get people inside the Hormonal Reset program, and if their husbands or partners aren't on board, they're saying, hey, how do I deal with my partner who is, trying to tempt me and sabotage me and doesn't want my success? Because the partner says, hey, babe, yeah, I truly, I support you and I want your success, but at an unconscious level, if they're arranging social events, if they're eating foods that aren't going to be agreeing with you, if they're trying to tempt you to sleep in bed longer versus getting up and going for a workout, or if they're trying to compromise your routine, then obviously they're the anchor. And that's a serious question that you need to be thinking about and asking yourself of, okay, who am I? Am I going to tolerate this? Are they growing as fast as I, or are they outgrowing me? Do I need to grow to keep this relationship healthy?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think eventually, just over time, naturally those people will fall off. Either those people will grow faster than you, and then they'll kind of disassociate from you, or you'll outgrow those people, and they'll eventually fall off. And it actually reminds me of a conversation I had with our housemate Andy, who will be on another episode coming soon. Was just like, I knew I needed to make some changes, and I just wasn't sure where to start. And it was kind of like the back and forth where I would like take one step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward. And I was just having a conversation with him, and he was like, well, the reality of it is, and we joke about this now, he was like, me and Mac are here. Me and Mac are, climbing the mountain up. And if, in the nicest way, like, if you don't climb the mountain with us, then you're going to get left behind. And to me, that was kind of really eye-opening. I was like, well, shit, yeah, I guess, like, I got to get my shit together, or else, yeah, I think just naturally those people kind of fall out of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, so great. That kind of wraps up our episode of Anchors and Engines, and really just drawing a line in the sand. We're coming to the end of 2020 at the moment. We're about to enter 2021. And ask yourself, what have you compromised in your life this year? Because you have a great opportunity next year to start fresh. In fact, you have a great opportunity right now to start fresh. And so draw the line in your sand. Ask yourself, okay, how have I grown this year? How am I going to continue to grow? And if you want that person still in your life, how can I inspire them to help them grow as well? Because ultimately, you can't make anyone change. The only person that you can change is yourself. And so, but you can lead people to change. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you can lead your partners, your friends to change, but if they're not going to change with you, then now's a great opportunity to go, you know what, I deserve better. I know who I am, or at least I want to go and create who I am and start fresh.
Great stuff. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Steffi. Bye.